Hey guys, welcome to another speed build. Today we have a Victorian greenhouse inspired by the Peacock sculpture from the Decor to the Max kit. Um, Also, I guess since it is June, we could say that this is a pride build. It was not originally intended to be one, but I guess it does kind of fit the theme since peacocks are intended to be prideful animals. So happy pride, everyone. So here we are going into the beginning of the speed build. I knew that I wanted to have a lot of rounded shapes and dome roofs. And also I wanted to make sure like it had a lot of windows that, sort of fit that sort of Victorian swirling vine work sort of feel. So we've got like the door from Realm of Magic, the spandrels from Realm of Magic, as well as that sort of Victorian wrought iron glass roof that we have available. So here you can see I'm just playing around with getting the windows set up and how the roofing is going to work. I originally tried to like do these little arch roofs over the windows because these are technically medium wall height windows, but when you place them on small walls, that little bit pops over the edge, which kind of I felt added a cool scallop shape. And I ended up going away from the idea of having the little arched pieces, and I actually kind of struggled with having like the two domes on either side connect across the middle. I tried to use like a gabled roof in the center of the building to get it to work, and it eventually came together. There is like a wall piece that's inside the roof at one point in time, and by one point in time, of course, I mean towards the end of the build. Or it could be about here, because I decided there were like windows connecting the central hallway portion of like the back of the greenhouse to the two rounded bits on either side. And here you can see we're starting to add our peacocks to the roof. I think there ends up being like 6 of them, maybe a little more. The only thing that I'm really not too pleased with when I finished this was that those peacock sculptures, I mean, there's only one version of it. So there's not like a mirrored image version for you to, flank things architecturally with them. But it still worked out pretty well. And I kind of like with what we do have available, how one of the peacocks is like looking over its shoulder away from you. Perhaps it's very prideful and it says, "You are not permitted to look at me." But anyway, here we go. We've finally got the windows figured out, and I think I'm about to hop inside in a little bit. I think I had these 2 more peacocks, and then I played around a little bit with like putting like some arches around. I ended up using these romantic garden stuff arches. I actually use a lot of romantic garden in this build because it kind of just makes sense. But romantic garden definitely has that more like English Victorian garden vibe to it. It's definitely more of like an old world sort of build, but that's kind of my style. I'm a little bit of a grandma stuck inside a 29-year-old. No, oh my God, I'm 30 now. Wow, a 30-year-old man's body. I just had a birthday not too long ago. Anyway, here we are putting a little bit of some decorations on the sides of the build. I did these like little spire bits on this side. I don't believe I ended up replacing those with peacocks. I think those stay the same, but the 2 points that are on either end of the left and right of the domes of the building, those do end up becoming peacocks eventually. And a little bit of this build was actually kind of inspired by the Garfield Park Conservatory here in Chicago. If any of you, live in the Chicago area and are familiar, maybe you will kind of get the vibe. But I guess maybe most conservatories are sort of like this, with like the wrought iron and the glass, at least if they were built in a certain time period. But here we are going inside. You can see I flanked either side of the door with those romantic garden ladies that have like the pots over their head. And then of course I had to use the castle estate wall and floor that has like the little mossy bits growing between the stone with the little flowers poking out of it. I just think it's very whimsical, and it kind of gives the vibe that this building has been here for a while. And then we're kind of going in here, and I'm deciding what all is going to be in here. It's, shocker, as a greenhouse, a lot of plants. I ended up using a lot of the blooming room kit in here, as well as there might be a couple other things that aren't blooming rooms. It's mainly romantic garden and blooming rooms, though. And of course, the windows are from Get Famous. And then, of course, I put some spandrels across to give it that support. And also, I think it's just visually interesting to have like all of that scroll work in the spandrels going across the build itself. And then here we are trying to figure out a little bit more of the outside. I knew I wanted to use these hanging plants from Debug that I believe are from base game. One of them ended up having like a really weird shadow, so I got rid of it, and I brought it back, and the one still has a bit of a weird shadow on it, but I kind of made do. Ah, yes, I did replace those things on the sides with fairy sculptures, as you may have just seen. And then I've got these lights that are from Blooming Rooms, which I actually just used in the Wicked speed build for the Glinda Alpha Bedorm room. If you haven't checked that out, those do feature in that, although it's just like one on either side of the room. Here, they're definitely a little bit more of a thing. Then you can see here I'm putting in these trellis items, and then I took a debug planter object and like kind of put it down into the ground a little bit so it looked like those vine bits, the roots, if you will, because they are roots, were just growing out of the concrete. They're the stone slabs here. And then on the one side, as you can see, I just put down, I decided it's kind of more like the desert palm house section of the greenhouse, which the Garfield Park Conservatory here in Chicago has. They have like a palm room. They also have a desert room. So I sort of put those together. I did like the palm leaf trees as well as the, well, there's one cactus, but you know, I did what I could. And also, there really isn't like a ton of room in here. I just knew I wanted to be very lush and have lots and lots of plants. So that's what I did. And there's like an English garden section on the other side. And here we are going into the outside. I add like 2 of the castle estate, like stone crests on the inside wall. And of course, I put some wisteria on the outside. Here's where I'm deciding that the peacocks would be better served on top of the building. We just need more peacocks all the time. Oh, and then I put 2 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 peacocks, which is kind of like a fun, like magical number. So this could be, you know, considered like maybe a witchy kind of build, which I think all of my stuff that I make kind of leans that way, just because I lean more fantasy when I build stuff. I like to build to sort of get away from the humdrum of everyday life. But here we are going in, and I had to like add a little bit of extra wall here because the spandrels ended up disappearing, and then I had to mess around with the ceiling so that it was see-through enough to be usable in tab mode, you know, to look up at the ceiling and not have like weird chunks of white. Then I ended up putting this like half cupola, I think that's right, I don't know, I could have said it wrong, thing from Romantic Garden. I put some debug plants growing on the side of it. I put a stone bench inside, and then of course more of the statues and stuff from Romantic Garden, some lampposts. That wishing well is here. And then I kind of struggled a little bit with the landscaping, just in that I wasn't sure if I wanted to be like a whole lot of different kinds of plants or like just like a couple of, I guess, species of plants that sort of repeated. I kind of like did like a little bit of a mix, but it is a little bit more of a put together sort of colorway as far as the plants go. You can see I put in like the ground cover plants. I've got the hollyhocks from Romantic Garden and that little gumdrop bush. And then I opted away from doing the thing where you put the debug rocks on the side of this little hill because it's not much of a hill that it's on. I ended up just putting some bushes to sort of fill it in a little bit and, you know, cover up that like stone texture. And then I did the hydrangeas in clumps of 3 on either side of the seating area over here. Here you can see this is where I'm struggling with what kind of bush to use to cover up this. And then I tried the rock for a hot second and decided it was not the vibe, as the kids say. And then I ended up just doing like a basic sort of hedge object. And then I had to switch the lighting here so I could see a little better. And I'm finally kind of getting a hang of the tool mod and how to use it in the way that I want. I had to watch a lot of tutorials, but I'm finally getting there, and it is such a useful tool to have. And the best thing is that you do not have to have the tool mod installed to download anything that I put on the gallery that I may have used the tool mod for, because there's no CC on here. It's everything that's in the game. It's just I rotated it in ways that the normal game does not allow you to. And here we're kind of moving into finishing touches. I decided to put that fence from Romantic Garden around the edges and a few more plants. A fountain on this side over here, which is not from the Courtyard Oasis kit, although it does have that vibe, because I don't have Courtyard Oasis. I think it's City Living. And then I sort of finished up with the path a little bit, and I ended up putting like a little pool off to one side. I think we might see in a second after I plate these hedges, maybe. It's like along one of the walls here. Maybe you can't see it. I don't know. But there's a tiny little pool back like behind the seating area section. And here we're going into the end, guys. Enjoy those screenshots, and thanks for watching another one. Catch you later.